Welcome back to my Minecraft video because we all know that Minecraft videos are very niche and that there's like just a small audience for them. So we gotta I gotta be here, being so generous and give you guys like very top of the line content. And today's thing, I'm just gonna talk about like how to give advice. Because I was giving advice to like a friend earlier today about his situationship with his relationship with a girl, and I think that advice kind of helped him a lot. So maybe I want to share that with you guys of like how do you give good advice to friends, family, people that you love, all that kind of stuff. All right, number one, how to make good advice. One, you have to understand this is like the context of it. So, number point one, the context. First, you got to understand that they ultimately make the decision. They kind of know what's best for them, unless if it's like egregious where it's like they're in an abusive relationship or something like that. They kind of know what's best for them, so they make the decision because it's their life. They make a decision, they live with it, right? It's not your life. You don't make the decision, you don't live with, right? So yeah, number one, they make the decision, right? That's number uno. Okay, that was like number one. That was like the context. Number two is you gotta validate their feelings, basically, right? You got to be like, okay, if they're having a hard time, say like, yeah, I understand why you're having a hard time. I'd be having a hard time in this situation too. Even if you really weren't, but like, it's really good to have just that friend who kind of sees what you're going through, and that's very valuable. So validate. Okay, so that was number two. Number two, validate. Number three, listen. You gotta actively listen. This ties along with validate, is you want to actively listen to what their problem is or what they're speaking about. Nod your head, repeat back kind of what they said. Just be very friendly. Be very friendly. Validate what they said. Yeah, be very friendly. Listen to what they say. Being an engaged listener is a very good skill, and showing someone that they are listened to is huge. All right, and then I want to segment this into giving advice. A lot of times people don't need advice, they just want to be heard. All right, I read like five-ish articles that I'll post in the description, but a lot of people just want to be heard. That's all. You don't really need to give advice. You just have to be a good listener who like validates their feelings. Like that's what they want. That makes people feel better. If you've ever been in therapy, you should like understand that a therapist isn't there to solve all your problems, rather to listen to you and lead you to solving problems. Like give you that mindset of maybe you should think this way, or maybe you should have this mindset. Maybe you should think more positive things. Not necessarily you're having a hard time, here's a solution to your hard times. No, they're thinking, hey, you're having a hard time, here's how to like think. But mainly a therapist is there to listen to your hard times, and with you expressing that emotion, you really feel better. All right, so that was the segment. Moving on to actually giving advice is number four, is you want to ask for permission. And this is pretty obvious. Hey, can I give you some advice? Or sometimes you don't need to ask for it, but just asking is nice. Maybe sometimes people want to be listened to you, and if they're mature enough to acknowledge that, they'll be like, hey, no, I don't really need advice, I kind of know it's right, I just want to vent about it. That's a very mature thing to do, like explaining that. So I'm putting that at number four, ask for permission. Number five is actually giving them advice. You want to actually give advice if you're trying to give advice, right? And then once you give your advice, I want to segment into number six. Like this is the final point, and this is basically telling them that everything's gonna be okay. All right, so what do I mean by this? I mean like, I just got broken up with, my girl. But like deep down, I know that everything's gonna be fine. She's gonna like live a wonderful life, find a wonderful husband who can love her and see a future with her that, I know I couldn't. So she's gonna find that man. And it's like, you gotta tell people sometimes that, hey, like you're not facing like a life or death problem. Like what's the worst that can actually happen? And a lot of times that helps with people of like, hey, just know that at the end of the day, your parents are gonna still love you. Hopefully they have good parents. Just gonna go to school or work tomorrow, and everything's gonna be fine. You're still gonna eat healthy. You're still gonna sleep under a roof in a AC room, heated room, and you're gonna still have all the commodities you need to live. Like, you're gonna be okay. So to recap this, when giving advice to people, one, the pretext is they make the decision. You don't want to make a decision for them because they're living with their decision. You're not living with the decision that they made. They live with the decision that they made, right? So that's a little pretext. Number two is you want to validate. That ties along with number three, which you want to listen. Be an engaged listener. Look at them in the eyes, repeat after what they said. Just being known that you're listened to really helps a lot. A lot of times, let me repeat this, a lot of times people really aren't asking for advice, but asking for someone to listen to. Number four was ask for permission when you decide to give advice. All right, you want to ask for permission. Sometimes they just want to rant and vent, and you got to be okay with that, right? You don't want to give advice where if they don't want to hear it. So number four, ask for permission. And number five, once you give your advice, kind of tell them like, hey, everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna go back home to parents that are still gonna love you. Hopefully it's like that. Hopefully they have a situation like that, as blessed as a situation as I am in, where no matter like if I fail any classes or whatever, my parents are still gonna love me. This is gonna segue into me giving advice to the 25 viewers ish that watched my video yesterday. Thank you so much. But this is gonna segue into you guys. I'm currently going to college very soon, and I look around and I see a lot of friends, and they're not really doing anything with their lives, right? And that's okay. We're in high school. We're not supposed to be like super successful. Hell, I'm making YouTube videos because I want to try something out at least, you know what I mean? But my advice to a lot of young people is you gotta get a hobby. So what I mean by this is you gotta get a hobby where you can constantly improve at something, and that's give you a little bit of like an escape from the world. I would consider maybe video games a hobby if you're like very competitive at it and you're very like your goal in video games is to get better, but I wouldn't really recommend that as your hobby. This is just like a pastime for me to do. I'm not actively trying to like, okay, what can I do better at, Minecraft or, Valorant or Overwatch. I play Overwatch. But I'm not really like asking myself, hey, like how can I get better? Like I'm plat in Overwatch, and I've been playing that game for like probably 1,000 hours or something. If I wanted to get good, I maybe could like watch my replays and stuff, but I'm not actively trying to get better. So a hobby is something that you can actively try and get better at. You can actively get smarter by reading, or whatever you like. Just have a hobby. For me, it's rock climbing. I really like rock climbing because it's basically an adult playground, right? Rock climbing is basically an adult playground, and you can get better at rock climbing. There's grades where you see yourself improve over the months. Over the months I've done it, that I've seen improved. I went from V3 to I'm currently like V5, teetering on to V6. But like something I can improve on. So rock climbing is something I can improve on. That's what I'd suggest for one of you guys. Whether it's skiing, snowboarding, reading, running, just something where you can improve on and that you can do on a semi-regular basis. I got a lot of my friends into rock climbing because I'd ask them, hey, what are you doing? Like, what are your hobbies? And one said like golf, for example. And I'm like, okay, when's the last time you golfed? And he said like, it's been a minute. So I'm trying to get into rock climbing. Like, let's hope and pray that it works. But you just want to do something on a like semi-regular basis, at least like kind of like a once a week, at least starting out. But it should be once a week at least, hopefully more, of like something that you do that you can get better at, that you really enjoy, that doesn't stress you out at all, right? That's like that you find fun. A hobby is something that you can improve it, that you find joy and fun in, that's not like super duper stressful, right? That's a hobby. So you wanna find a hobby like that. That's my advice to a lot of kids my age who are in high school or middle school, or like I have a stepsister and she's fully grown working, and I think she really needs something to get her out the house, something that gets you out the house, or hiking, right? Just something that you can do that's stress-free, that you constantly can improve at. Art's a big one. You can see your progress in art, just something that you do semi-consistently. That's my advice for the people my age, my peers that I look around on. And if they don't have anything to do, then it's kind of depressing. You wanna get good at something, and getting good's not a product of talent, but it's a product of showing up. Yeah, let me say that again, because I think that's a tough quote. Getting good is not a product of talent. It's a product of showing up. Showing up is definitely the hardest thing you do. Like I said again, I wrestled. Showing up to wrestling practice was the hard part about it. I mean, obviously, yeah, the practices sucked, but just not quitting on it until I realized that I had to quit, or until I realized that I wasn't having fun and it was a big stressor in my life. Just not quitting and showing up every day on a consistent basis, that's what got me, I'm not gonna say good, but like decent. I saw improvement in wrestling from when I joined to when I quit. Like, I could definitely see improvement. I went from a losing record to a winning record. I mean, it's not too impressive, but getting good at something is not a product of talent. It's about showing up and wanting to get good. And you just want to have a hobby. Alright, so I'm kind of gonna end the video on this. I'm gonna give a quick recap first though. Alright, the first thing I talked about was giving advice. So to recap, giving advice, one, ultimately they make the decision. They live with their decision. You don't live with their decision. So you want the ball in their court, unless it's like egregious example where it's like abuse or something, and it's like, that's not okay. You got to get out of this relationship. Number two is validate what they say. This ties along with number three, which is being an active, engaged listener. Repeat what they said, follow along. Okay, a lot of the times advice is great, but being there and listening to someone's problems is what they need. Number four, ask for permission when you give advice. Sometimes they just want to rant, and sometimes they just want a person to listen to. So asking for permission to give advice is, very mature of you. And if they acknowledge that they just want to rant, that's very mature of them. Number five is after you give your advice. So I guess number five could be you give advice, but number six, the final thing, is like, you gotta usually, in a lot of situations, tell them that everything's going to be okay. Hopefully they have loving parents. Tell them, hey, no matter what you do, you're going to come home to loving parents. You're going to have food on the table, and tomorrow's the sun's going to, rise, and it's going to set, and everything's going to be okay. The world's not going to end because of this. Okay, so number one, I gave advice. Number one, I gave advice on how to give advice. And number two, my advice to my peers, which I'm almost like I'm graduating. So my advice to like my peers of, entering college, or, entering life after high school, and people near that age, is to find a hobby. You know what I mean? You want to find a hobby? I define a hobby as something that you can get good at, that you enjoy, that is pretty stress-free. Alright, those three things. Something you can get at, you enjoy, pretty stress-free. You want to have one of those to just fall back on, or just like see improvement in your day-to-day life, right? I don't really consider video games too much as a hobby, but I'd consider like hiking, I'd consider reading, art, something that you actually can get good at. I would consider video games a hobby if you are playing competitive video games and you like want to improve and you get a really high rank. Then maybe it's a hobby. But something outdoors or something creative, or like reading books, I think is a lot more valuable. So if your hobby is video games, I would correlate that with another hobby. Like, just try to find another mini hobby, for example. And an example of a hobby that I do is I do rock climbing. I've been rock climbing for like at least a few months now, and I see growth in both the rock climbing sets that I can do. Like, I can do harder rock climbs, and my body, like my physical body, is getting more muscular, getting more tone. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If to the one person that's already here, because I only have like 20 views on my last video, but like thank you so much. Hopefully this means something to you, and yeah, have a great day or a great night, whatever. All right, bye.